Yeah.
Or
Yes.
I used to think when I first got arrested, I had a lot of faith in the system. And I thought because of my actions in my case that I would somehow get justice and that somehow, some way the truth would come out. You know, I was naive like every other person that's never in society, that's never been through the system. And once you run the gauntlet of the system, the trial, pre-trial, going through all the stages, you begin to realize that this system is really not even about justice. You know, you begin to realize that you really have no rights. It's really about power and control. It has nothing to do with getting justice. And so immediately my naivete dissipated once I seen the reality of the situation. And I seen not only the criminal nature of my situation, but I began to see the political nature. Like I said, it has nothing to do with crime, punishment, and public safety. It has everything to do with social control, capitalist exploitation, locking people up to create a labor pool of cheap labor for corporations in America. The same function that slavery played. I came to prison and I thought that I would be, I thought that people would hear me out, you know, CO staff. I thought that, you know, these people claim to be moralists and they feel like they have a moral duty to uphold a just and safe society. So I figured if they were so dedicated to punishing criminals and crime in society, then they would be dedicated to individuals who've been wrongly convicted by the system. Where was I wrong? I realized that morals do not extend to individuals who've been punished by the state or who the state have criminalized. As long as the individual commits the crime, you know, people have issue with that. But when it's the state that's committing the crime, everybody just goes along with it. And so I thought that when I came to prison, you know, they would have a building for, like, I guess, innocent guys. I thought they would have people that work for you to get you out of the prison, within the prison. I found all of that not to be true. You know, my cellmate, my first cellmate, was a white guy, and he ended up getting raped in here. And I realized that they don't separate us. They put the guilty with the innocent. They put the partially guilty with the innocent. They put the partially guilty with the guilty. After my cellmate got raped, you know, he had blood, feces, semen streaming out of his backside. And I watched him as he was dejected. You know, he's watching his manhood leave his body. You know, and that's when I realized that these people really don't care. You know, I wasn't unable to get his assailant because we consider that a violation of somebody running your cell in prison. And that demands that you do something. But he was caught and he was locked up for that. He was put in the hole for that. So I never got to get his assailant. But that showed me that there is no difference no difference when you come to prison. You are in prison. There's no guilty. There's no innocent. They don't care. When that jury convict you, that verdict is final. You know, and so my plight has been even rougher because not committing a crime, you don't have the luxury of guilt. And what that is when you know you did something and you become punished for it, you can sit at the end of the day when it becomes hard. You can sit and say, okay, well, I did the crime. Did I do the time? You can sit with that, and that becomes a coping mechanism, your responsibility. But when you haven't even done the crime, you don't have that luxury. So my plight has been a lot worse than a person that committed the crime because I don't have the luxury of guilt. You know, and so you wonder, how do you even begin to get justice when the people that are trying to convict you are breaking the law to do it? You know, I realized that poverty is the first crime, like I always say. And so we grow up in our communities, black communities are poor, they're impoverished. And all of our crimes stem from that poverty and trying to alleviate those conditions. And government leaders, political leaders, they understand that if you eliminate poverty, you eliminate crime. And we can't get serious about crime until we deal with the issue of poverty. We can't impoverish people And then when they commit crimes to alleviate that impoverishment, we turn around and fund police and prisons. That's not a sustainable model. At least it's not for us. But for the system, it's a well-oiled machine. And so that's the issue that we have to address. If we really are serious about crime, we would eliminate poverty, which is the first crime. So I found myself in this system. I was branded by a guilty verdict. And when you go through the system, you're no longer a human. You're only judged by what people see on paper, you know? And so because they only record your bad mistakes, this is the impression that people have of you. Nobody seek and try to understand you on a human level. Were you a father? Were you a son? How were you in the street? Did you take care of your community? Did you take care of your family? Nobody cares about that. You're only looked at by your mistakes. You're only judged by what the system has recorded from your bad mistakes. You know, and it's really is a traumatic experience, because it's like I'm crying, saying, "Hey, look at me! I'm a good father. I'm a good husband. I'm a good son. I'm a good family member." Nobody cares about that. The only thing they see is you are a criminal. You committed a crime. You deserve to be punished. And so that punishment extends to more punishment when you get to prison. You know, we send people to prison to punish them. When you go to prison, that's being removed from society. That's society saying, we are rejecting you. You are no longer fit for civil society, so we're putting you in prison. You know, that in itself is the punishment. But prison officials turn around and punish you even more, because they feel they have a duty. Like, locking you up ain't enough. Putting you in prison isn't enough. Removing you from society isn't enough. They feel like it's their duty to punish you while you're here. They don't care about your story. They don't care what got you here. You know, and it's you know, I've realized the power of power. When people get a little power, they get intoxicated by it, and they turn into sadists, and they begin punishing for sport, especially when you're a person of color. And so all of these things I've learned by being in the system, it has shifted my perspective of the system. It has nothing to do with public safety. It's the power dynamic. It's the politics involved. It's the socialized control of the same racial group that's been controlled in this country since the inception of this country. It's about exploitation. It's about capital. It's about corporations and big business profiting off of jailing human beings. You know, the political dynamics is what I begin to learn. You know, and it's kind of disheartening me, because it's like, how can I begin to get justice when this thing isn't even about justice? You know, but I'm going to still keep pushing. You know, I still have faith in people. I have faith in justice prevailing. Even though justice delayed is justice denied, I still believe that somehow, some way, my justice will come. And so I'm going to keep fighting. Till next time, yo.